Alright guys, welcome back. This is Bad Senator. So, today I'm going to share my July predictions for Senate and governors. So as of right now, California is safe Democrat from the get-go because it's actually two Democrats running instead of one Democrat and one Republican out there. Let's look at some other states that are safe Democrat. Obviously, Washington is safe. Minnesota is safe, even though that was kind of close in 2016. Amy Klobuchar is way too popular for really any big challenge to come up against her. Kirsten Gillibrand, don't really see that being competitive. Vermont, Maine, obviously, very safe bets, very popular incumbents in those states. Then you have some less popular people, but still blue states in some of these states down here: Delaware, Maryland, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut. Virginia, Corey Stewart is too conservative for his progressive state. New Mexico is probably the least safe of the safe states, but it's still pretty safe. Oh yeah, and Hawaii. How did I forget Hawaii? Hawaii, obviously, is going to be so safe for the Democrats. And then the safe Republican states, you obviously have Nebraska, Wyoming, and Utah. And then you have Mississippi. So those are the safe states. Obviously, some more seats are likely, like the Minnesota special election is pretty much going to go to Tina Smith, although because Tina Smith is a weaker candidate than Amy Klobuchar, and their race swung towards Trump a bit in 2016. There's a slight chance it could go to the Republican, that's why it's likely. Same thing in states like Michigan. Michigan, I think, is likely. Wisconsin is likely. Pennsylvania is also likely. New Jersey is only leaning, and I'll get to that in a minute. Well, I'll get to it now. New Jersey is merely lean Democrat, even though New Jersey has such a Democrat lean. I only had this as lean Democrat, and the reason being that I don't live in New Jersey, but I live close enough to the border of New Jersey to get their political ads, and Bob Menendez is not running an ad at all on that front. It's Bob Hugin, the Republican nominee, who is running these attack ads going against Menendez for his corruption and going against him and boosting him up with like some of his more bipartisan policy points. And I mean, if that keeps up, this race could be a real race. I mean, the new poll came out showing Menendez only up 4 points against Hugin. Obviously, that's both candidates only got in the high 20s in that poll. So a lot of undecided in this race, and that's the key. There's a lot of undecided. So given New Jersey's political bent, it still leans Democrat, but Hugin is really running by far the better campaign at this point, and really I think it's only lean Democrat. Again, blue wave year and very blue state that's coming even more aggressive towards Republicans, so that's why it's leaning and not toss up, but a lot of other people have it likely or safe. I have it as leaning. Ohio, some new polls have been coming out showing that Jim Renacci is in very big trouble here. Sherrod Brown's up at double digits in a lot of these polls. And then we have some likely Republican states. The special election in Mississippi. The only way this becomes competitive is if Chris McDaniel and Mike Epps make it past the jungle primary. That's the only way this race becomes competitive. And in Texas, Ted Cruz Beto O'Rourke is running a fantastic campaign. Gotta give him props for that. But Ted Cruz is such a state that votes heavily Republican, and Ted Cruz, I mean, he's in the end, Beto O'Rourke won't be able to overcome that, I don't think. So these are the states that I believe are going to decide the election. So let's go to West Virginia. West Virginia, I think that's lean Democrat. Almost everyone has a toss-up, but it's really lean because Pat Morrissey is not a very good candidate, and Joe Manchin has a bipartisan voting record, and he is a very good fit for his state. And that's why I was lean. However, it could become toss-up with the whole Supreme Court thing. More on that in a bit. Nevada, I also think, is actually lean. Again, almost everyone has the toss-up. I was lean Democrat. It's lean Democrat because Jackie Rosen polls are showing Jackie Rosen up. And, in Nevada, usually the polling error, unlike the rest of the nation, is in favor of the Democrats in the state. Like, polls show Sharon Angle and Donald Trump and I think Joe Heck, and all those candidates lost in those states in their respective election years. So, I mean, because of that, can't help but give this race to Jackie Rosen, or at least have her start off as a favorite. Well, not really start off as a favorite, but be a favorite as of right now. Obviously, Dean Heller could come back, but it's not looking too good for him at this point. Missouri is also lean Republican. Now, that's the other state that I currently have as more than toss-up to flip. And Missouri, I think, is lean because, McCaskill is not the most bipartisan person. She embraced Obama, and obviously people in Missouri, they don't like Obama. Josh Hawley, some argue that he's a weak candidate. I say he's actually a much stronger candidate. Josh Hawley, I think the Eric Greitens thing is really going to help him out in the end because he's not going to be fresh on the mind of voters when November rolls around. Eric Greitens, where he would have if he hadn't resigned, and that could have brought down Josh Hawley a bit. And, this is a heavily Trump state, even more than you probably think. I think he voted for Trump by 19 points, which was a very, very big win for him. There's really, McCaskill is in big trouble. McCaskill, she can definitely campaign her way out of this because McCaskill is a proven to be a very, very good campaigner. And don't count her out. Like, don't count out Dean Heller in Nevada. Do not count McCaskill out. She can definitely still come back and win this. But as of right now, she needs to get her act together real quick if she wants to not be in big trouble, not be in this position come November. Tennessee, that's the last race I have as anything but toss-up. It's lean GOP. And the reason it's lean GOP, even though you have polls of Bredesen up, is because Phil Bredesen, while he's polling above Marsha Blackburn, he's polling below 50%. And obviously with the state such with the bent as high for the Republicans in Tennessee, a lot of that undecided vote is going to go disproportionately to the Republican candidate, Marsha Blackburn. And also, Phil Bredesen is pretty much the exact opposite of what you expect from a Democrat out of Tennessee. Most of these Appalachian South Democrats are socially conservative and fiscally liberal. Phil Bredesen is the opposite. He's economically conservative and socially liberal. And I think because of that ideological imbalance there, gives Blackburn the edge as of right now. But again, this race could easily become toss-up. So if you look at the map right now, you can see the Republicans already have the 50 seats they need to hold the chamber. So obviously, I think Republicans right now are in a very good shape in the Senate. I think they don't have that much to worry about. However, I think they still should definitely keep an eye on their chamber. Definitely still spend money on campaign too, because it's definitely possible that someone like Claire McCaskill or Marsha Blackburn or Phil Bredesen could, run a good campaign and put the race back in the toss-up and the Senate with it. So that's what I'll say about the Senate overall. Now I'm going to try to characterize these 5 toss-up races. First, I'll start in Arizona. I'll go west to east. In Arizona, I think that one barely leans in Sinema's favor just because this would probably be a lean Democrat race against Arpaio and Ward. And that's 2 of the 3 people that could definitely get the nomination on the Republican side in Arizona. In Montana, I think Jon Tester is barely ahead. He's a lot of money, big war chest here. Matt Rosendale, again, could campaign the state to run a good campaign, put the state back in his favor. But Jon Tester definitely has the edge here. In North Dakota is actually really tricky. I think this is the closest race as of right now that there is. We'll get back to it. In Indiana, again, I got to put the Democrat up here. Joe Donnelly, the tariffs are definitely not helping Mike Braun at all. And Joe Donnelly, kind of like Joe Manchin, is a good fit for a state with a very independent voting record. And I think that will end up saving him. In Florida, I'm going to give it to Rick Scott. So a lot of people don't like Rick Scott. And I know I'll probably have some people say, why didn't you give Florida Bill Nelson? Here's why. Rick Scott's been leading in the polls as of recently. I mean, Rick Scott has been doing well among Puerto Rican immigrants from Puerto Rico, I should say. I pronounced that wrong, didn't I? From Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria. And that's going to be the demographic that decides this election. So I think that Florida will break with the rest of the states in the blue wave. It'll be a red bastion among a country of blue, in a way. And finally, North Dakota. Honestly, I might just leave this as pure toss-up, simply because, the Senate's already decided 51-48. We know Republicans at this point are going to keep control if my calculations are correct on these races, and I think they will be. So North Dakota, I'm going to leave that as toss-up, really. There's a lot of unknown factors here. Which factors are still going to be at play in November? I don't know. I really can't characterize this race at this point. So I'm sorry, I have failed you this time. I have failed to deliver characterizations for every race at this time. Hopefully by August I can get a better characterization of this race. And then if we look at the Congress, in 2019 we had 51 Republicans to 48 Democrats. Now let's go to the governorships. Governorships, a lot of stuff has changed here as well. So let's do a blank map. So obviously there are several states here that are going to be safe for either party. California obviously is going to be safe. However, I believe that in California it's only a matter of time due to worsening. It's a very expensive state to live in, and the economic conditions aren't very good. And Democrats have obviously had control of the state for a long time. So I think it's only a matter of time before California becomes competitive, but this year is not that time. Obviously, Hawaii, I think they're about to dump their governor. JVK could lose the primary, but either way, this is pretty much a lock for the Democrats. And I'm surprised to say, give or take Oregon, I think I'm going to put Oregon in safe Democrat column. Yeah, but except for those three states, those are the only safe Democrat states at this point. Only three. Okay, now on the Republican side, you have several more safe states. You have Texas, Arkansas, Alabama, Nebraska, Wyoming, Idaho, and these are also very red states, which are going to be safe. And they have some other states in surprising locations, places you might not expect, such as Massachusetts and Vermont. No, those states are very blue states. They have some of the two most liberal senators, Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, in the nation. However, they are safe simply because the Republican governors there are really good at governing. Really, they have crazy high approval ratings. They have good fits for their state, and no real strong Democrat opponent has come up against them. And that's why those governors are safe. Phil Scott and Charlie Baker, respectively. Now, some likely states. New York is very likely Democrat. The reason it's likely and not safe is because you have the possibility that Cynthia Nixon runs a third-party campaign and splits the Democrat vote. And that could make a room for Republican Mark Molinaro to snatch up the middle and snatch the victory. But again, it's a very fringe possibility, and it's probably going to be safe for Cuomo. Rhode Island, you have a similar situation going on, but this time it's for the Republican side. I used to have this race as toss-up. However, there's a third-party candidate in this race, Joe Trillo, who is making things very annoying for the Republicans. You have Alan Fung, who's the Republican nominee, or the most likely going to be the Republican nominee, and I think he could legitimately beat Raimondo this year. However, you have Joe Trillo running the third-party campaign, splitting the Republican vote in that state. So I'm going to think that's likely for now, and it's probably safe. Now let's go to some other states. Let's go to the likely Republican states. Oklahoma, Kansas, and Tennessee. Those are all likely. You have in Oklahoma and Kansas, you have very unpopular GOP governors. And in Tennessee, you have a very strong Democrat candidate, and the mayor of Nashville running, and that's a strong position for governor in that state. Many people have become governor of Tennessee from mayor of Nashville. Some other states you might not expect in this likely Republican column: South Carolina and South Dakota. So in South Carolina, Henry McMaster just barely won his primary. In his poor showing in the primary, gets an opening for the Democrats at least. Because Henry McMaster, there's been some, I wouldn't call them scandals, but some stuff that has plagued the South Carolina governor's office, and that's obviously not very good for McMaster. And given his poor primary showing, I decided to put the race in likely. In South Dakota, you have a lot of personality-based voting. That's how Heidi Heitkamp and, some of these other Democrat senators like Tim Johnson won in the Dakotas because of personality-based voting. And if this was all about personality, if this is all a popularity contest, then Billy Sunn, the Democrat nominee, would obviously have a huge advantage because he has a ranch in South Dakota. He champions the South Dakotan dream, and he was actually injured, I think, bull riding. He's a very relatable to a lot of the South Dakotans. So I think because of that, you have him at likely GOP. And finally, the other three likely GOP states are Georgia, Maryland, and New Hampshire. Georgia, you have Stacey Abrams, who's really rallying the progressive bases. But then again, in conservative Georgia, progressive isn't really the Democrat you want. So I'll put that as likely, given the excitement surrounding her. In Maryland, New Hampshire, those are some both blue states. They both voted for Obama twice and Clinton once. But again, popular GOP governors, they're slightly less popular than their counterparts in Massachusetts and Vermont. That's why they're likely. And they have some strongish Democrat opponents against them, so that's why they're likely. I forgot one lean or likely Democrat state, that is New Mexico. So, New Mexico is likely Democrat, and that's actually surprising because it's held by a Republican, Susana Martinez. New Mexico is likely simply because it's a blue state, and you have a strong Democrat candidate. Now, a lot of people have this as lean Democrat, only lean, is because you also have a strong Republican candidate. However, again, you have two strong candidates. That's kind of like a default election in that scenario. And given New Mexico's heavy tilt towards the Democrats and given the increased Latino turnout we've seen across the nation against Republicans, I don't see any reason why losing Grisham is not a shoo-in at this point for re-election. Pennsylvania is also likely because of Tom Wolf's strong primary performance and the Democrats there in general being in good position and being an incumbent, obviously, when the president holds the White House. Scott Wagner is not the strongest of candidates either. Okay, that's all the likely states, and we have a lot of battleground left to go here. I'll go east to west here. Alaska's toss-up. Because there are a lot of variables in this race that are not yet known. Like if Bill Walker is going to drop out, perhaps endorse Mark Begich, the Democrat nominee. Mark Begich is a strong candidate. We don't know what candidates will be for the vote, because this is a three-way race. This is a three-way race right here between the Republican candidate, Mark Begich, the Democrat strong candidate, and Bill Walker, the independent incumbent governor. We don't know who's taking votes away from which candidate. That's not really information we know at this point, and a lot of unknown variables, and that's why it's toss-up. Nevada is also toss-up. I mean, it's Adam Laxalt versus Steve Sisolak. Nevada's a swing state. It's open governorship. Hey, it's anyone's game there. Arizona, I'm going to give Doug Ducey a small advantage because Ducey, he's not that popular, but he certainly has a lot to spend in this race. And Arizona, you don't really have a great Democrat candidate, David Garcia, although Garcia is leading Ducey in some polls. He's not as great as a candidate as Kirsten Sinema is in the Senate race. And that gives Ducey, I think, a small advantage. Colorado leans the other way, leans Democrat. Jared Polis, very strong candidate. Colorado is becoming increasingly blue. It's a swing state, but it's coming more blue, it seems, by the election. So we're going to give that state a slight Democrat lean, although Republican Walker Stapleton could make it a race. Iowa, we're going to give Kim Reynolds a small advantage, quite small advantage. Fred Hubbell could definitely make the race toss-up. Like Kim Reynolds is mildly popular, and the state swung very heavily towards Trump in 2016. In the rest, a lot of the states in the Rust Belt, both Minnesota, Wisconsin are toss-ups, and so are Michigan and Ohio. Those states are all toss-ups at this point. So a lot of toss-ups to be had in the Rust Belt. In Illinois, we have Bruce Reiner barely losing, dude J.B. Pritzker. Pritzker has a lot of money to spend this race. So does Bruce Rauner, but it'll be essentially be a default race in a blue state in a blue year, which is obviously going to be favorable towards the Democrats, although Rauner does have incumbency advantage, which could end up saving him. And yeah, all the other races are toss-up. So Florida, it's a swing state for obvious reasons, and these states up here, Minnesota, you have a very strong candidate in Tim Pawlenty, the Republican. In Wisconsin, a lot of people have this as leading Republican. I think it's toss-up because Scott Walker is unpopular. Democrats have been turning out in wild amounts of numbers in special elections, in the saying that it shows they're ready to get rid of Walker. A lot of people have this as lean R. I have this as toss-up. And all the other states are toss-up. In Maine, you have a three-way race there as well, with a lot of unknown variables in that race as well. So let's try to characterize each race. Alaska, I'm going to give it to the Republican. Again, because I think it's more possible that Mark Begich and Bill Walker, who is more on the liberal side, could split the vote, allowing him to win. In Nevada, it really is a toss-up. It's a pure toss-up, but given the Democrat environment of the year and given the polling error usually being in favor of the Democrats in Nevada, I'm going to give that to Steve Sisolak. In Minnesota, I'm going to give this race to Tim Walz or whoever the Democrat nominee is, because Tim Pawlenty has never gotten more than 50% of the vote in the state of Minnesota, even in his governor elections. He's always won by a plurality. In Wisconsin, you have a very fractured Democrat field, and Scott Walker, who can definitely he's a strong campaigner in a way. Again, he has a lot of money, so we're going to give that race him a very slight advantage. Michigan, same cannot be said for the Republicans in the governor's race in Michigan. Unpopular GOP governor, really all I have to say, it's an open seat. Trump just barely won it, blue wave here. Not a whole lot more to say about that race. Obviously, there's going to be a Democrat advantage in that kind of scenario. In Ohio, you have polls showing Richard Cordray up against DeWine, and DeWine is viewed, I guess, as kind of a career politician who isn't really that popular. And Cordray is more on the charismatic side, and he could definitely win this. I think he will win it. Florida, I think either Gwen Graham or Phil Levine, either one of those guys could beat the Republican here. Again, we're seeing in Florida, I think a special election was just won by a non-Latino Democrat against a Latino Republican in a very a prominently Latino area. And obviously that does not bode well, because it shows even if the surname of the Republican candidate, despite surnames, it shows that they are voting in favor of the Democrats, which does not bode well at all for the Republicans in that state. Maine, we're going to give the advantage in that state to the Democrats. Again, just because of the environment and Maine's tendency to vote Democrat down ballot. Finally, Connecticut, I'm having that one as just barely in lean Republican. You have the unpopular Democrat nominee here. Well, not necessarily the unpopular Democrat nominee, although he is pretty darn liberal. And then Dan Malloy, the current governor, is unpopular. And then a lot of Republican governors have been elected from the state of Connecticut recently. It's like Massachusetts, in which you have a lot of Republican governors in a very blue state. Republican candidate here is strong, and I see him just barely having a lead. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Bye.